Okay. Okay, welcome to SEO Talk webinar. We are back here with episode 2. Uh, we wanted to do it last week, but yeah, we postponed it. But we're back here and we'll keep doing this series, this part 2, and we'll come up with one more session as we had promised. But thank you so much, Krinal Bhai. Thank you for joining us again.
Of course, glad to be here and excited to share more real life use cases this time around.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things in the past 2 weeks. We just finished our 100th uh, X Spaces episode, and
Wow,
we are moving forward. So,
that's huge.
uh, yeah, that's a good milestone, to be honest. But yeah, we are just getting started and planning to launch a couple of new formats as well. But yeah, this series has been really fun. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and we are just loving it. Uh, okay, so I think so. We'll right away jump into it.
Yeah, no, glad to be here, and like I said, happy to give it back to the community that has kind of shown on the love and where I picked up all the learning from. And I'm so happy to see the feedback as well as people have been reaching out on LinkedIn after the webinar and in between these 2 weeks is like, hey, like I missed this, I missed this show, I missed this episode. Like, are you going to be doing another one? Like, can we meet for 30 minutes? This that, and I'm like, hey, listen, we have an amazing group. The organizers and the hosts are so nice. They've actually put in the effort to record the whole session, and all I have to do is just pick up that YouTube link and send them. And so sharing continues to happen even when the sessions are not happening. And so I'm so glad that all the effort that you and Malhar are putting in running the show, I think pays off multiple times over. So really appreciate you for setting this up and for having me as well.
Awesome. Glad to know that it's helping other folks as well. And yeah, our motto has been very clear. So I just heard something. I just read something yesterday on Twitter that uh, all the creator-led platforms and the creators that are successful, those who started their journey back in 2019, 2020 through the TikTok era and then moved to Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and all of that, the creators that survive beyond a year or two are the ones who give more than they take from that platform, whether they are earning or collaborations or anything. So I think so. That's the bottom line and the genesis of this particular community. And yeah, excited to be back. And how many are online? Please do comment and drop a comment on LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're watching from. And if you're watching the replay version, feel free to drop a comment on the YouTube chat section, sorry, comment section, and we'll for sure take those comments and reply back.
Yeah, would love to know
Oh,
where people are joining in from as well. So feel free to drop in where you're joining us from.
awesome. Okay, fair enough. We'll get started with the session right away. And so we had our last conversation, so we'll have kind of a little bit of recap, and then we'll get started. So when we say relevance engineering, um, especially in the context of semantic similarity and AI driven search, what does that practically mean to you as
Yeah.
someone who has been experimenting with it since the SEO week event in April?
Great question to kick things off. So in the last 2 weeks as well, I've also consumed more content around how other brands and how other tools and other providers and everyone's thinking about optimizing for this new era that we are in, optimizing for AI-led surfaces, AI-driven surfaces, LLMs. In particular, how is it different than optimizing for SEO that we've always been doing? there are a few terms that are getting popularity across the board. There's a term called content engineering. So companies like AirOps are more dominant in that space in terms of talking about why we need more content engineers in this new era. And what that means is everything. You can go to AirOps and kind of read their. They put out some amazing content. Folks like Kevin and Eli are there sharing their knowledge through webinar and whatnot. But I think the genesis of what everyone's trying to, and there was this other webinar by OnCrawl where they were talking about ChatGPT. If you go through the documentation of ChatGPT, they don't talk a whole lot about specifics, but the one word that is common across their documentation is relevance. That is the most common term that you will find in their documentation. And so it's all about relevance. End of the day, is how everyone wants to show relevant results, relevant brands, relevant answers. So it's less about becoming the most uh, optimized. It's more about becoming the most relevant to show up. So that's the underlying fundamental, or at least how I interpret that, understand that. Uh, so that's the nomenclature of relevance engineering. Now let's talk about the nuts and bolts of how you do it and how that is very different from the traditional SEO that we've been doing. Also, the traditional SEO in itself, I think, has gone through major transformation post Penguin and Panda, and then again post Rank Brain, and again post Hummingbird. For folks that have been able to live through that transformation, because I know a lot of folks have changed industries, gone elsewhere, and stuff like that, have seen that transformation when all of a sudden EEAT became a thing and stuff like that. And so there have been transformations. This just feels different. And in what ways? And so vector embedding, semantic similarity, all of these things are not new. They're just gaining more popularity now because uh, all of a sudden we have like a pivot in terms of like Google has launched this AI overviews and AI mode, and so like hey, like the first result no longer delivers that 40% CTR that we were guaranteed, not guaranteed, but we were hoping to get. Like it may only get 1% CTR because AI mode kind of and so even with everything else remaining constant, you doing your best, you just won't receive it as much traction. And so what it starts to look like, and this is where I got as excited as I was back in the day when I read about the page rank algorithm, and I got the first time, like this is 90s I'm talking about, and I was into SEO, just got a taste of SEO, and I got excited because I'm like, wow, this is how you can optimize for becoming popular. This is great. Or making a brand popular, so on and so forth. uh, Essentially it's all math. The algorithms have become more sophisticated, and so computing is expensive. Crawling the internet is expensive, and so they're trying to keep the costs under control, but at the same time it's like that police and the thief game of sorts. As people game the system, uh, you know uh, so there are multiple layers to it, and I think everything's starting to come together at the same time in terms of how technology has evolved. Really kind of builds this opportunity where now people want to, the whole chat gpt moment that happened in 2023, and now everyone's starting to use these AI surfaces. AI is not new. Like AI technology has been evolving for many decades, right? But now, because we are in this moment, and because users consumption is changing, consumption habits are changing, people are using different ways to not just search, but trying to solve their problems. And so because that is changing, we have to change how brands kind of leverage that opportunity and show up in that world. And so because of that shift happening at the user consumption level, uh, we as SEOs have to optimize how change our way of thinking of how we show up in those interfaces as well. So that's the genesis of how I would approach that. Hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, yeah. I think so. We are pivoting, and at the same time, the forefront of usage of LLMs is available in chat interface, and that's how people started interacting early 2023, I suppose. And now it's available on WhatsApp, whether you're using Meta AI or Copilot, and there are multiple versions of it. And every other month, there's an improved version on each of these platforms, whether it's OpenAI, Gemini. So times are interesting, and it's so handy that anyone can go and just ask a question and play around. So it's going to
And
be interesting times.
yeah, I like when AI was this big, AI had its big moment when ChatGPT, kind of launched. I think was 3.0 or something like that. My initial hypothesis was that this is going to just become a denominator for most brands and for most people, and I think that's where we are headed. So imagine every brand has access to the same technology, every user has access to the same technology, and when you start to extrapolate that and what that means, you start to understand we need to start thinking differently on how we think about visibility, because where are we trying to be visible is also changing. What are we trying to be visible on is also changing. uh, so let's say hypothetically 2 years back you might be optimizing for image generators. Now no one's going to search for that because that problem is a solved problem, as an example, right? So it's not just how you optimize, it's like what you optimize for, right? So
Yeah.
if LLM solve these problems, what are the problems that are left solving? I think entire industries are going to change. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back to the topic.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that totally. We are moving in that direction only, and it makes sense. I think so. I just wanted to add one point here. While there were 10 blue links or 7, 8, 10 blue links, whatever, on the CRP couple of years ago, so what was happening? People used to search, click on those links, and then there were engagement metrics, average session duration, the bounce rate, CTRs, and all of that. Now, as we don't have those blue links, so the whole search changes on the branding game, because you are just getting impressions. So there are no engagement metrics for the search algorithm to check, and so obviously it's moving towards branding, but what will be those new engagement metrics through which we can actually measure? So yeah, that's going to be an interesting time. But yeah, moving forward to the next question.
Can I throw in
uh,
sorry to interrupt? Can I
sure,
throw in
yeah.
a little bit of a caveat there? I love the industry trying to pivot and talk about this as if we are in a different world. I also like to remind people that while that transformation is happening and the transition is happening, Google just reported historically highest queries, meaning it's not gone, like it's still very much there. At Bluehost we are about to hit our historical highest traffic, and I know
Oh
I
wow.
sound like 90s when I talk about traffic in a relevance engineering webinar or in any SEO webinar these days, but because no one chases traffic, I know that. But I'm saying there are people still searching and the links still come up. They might not be 10, they might be 3, they might be 5, what have you. But that opportunity hasn't completely gone away. It's slowly eroding. If you look at the data that SparkToro puts out, or working with that datos, it's slowly
Mhm.
eroding. Our own numbers kind of show us the CTRs are eroding. So I want to be clear. Like I'm not saying, I'm not even remotely suggesting we stop doing all the good work that we were doing. I'm saying we need to do that and more when we
Mhm.
say relevance engineering. So the fundamentals still very much the same.
Yeah, and the behavioral change of people searching on internet is going to change, and based on that we'll have to adapt our content strategy, how we show our content. UI UX is going to be very, very important, and
Yes.
and whatnot.
Yes. I mean, if you just go back 5 years and if you see that shift to video as a format and how dramatic that has been. Not just the rise of YouTube, but like even Instagram and TikTok and whatnot. And if you look at some of these creators that don't even have a website but are still making, a good chunk of money using whatever Linktree type of apps because they have a huge audience, tells us that the opportunity is not just limited to search, it very much exists elsewhere as well. And so think of that as one transformation. Now we are heading to a different level of transformation, where all of these content formats are now going to be used in a very interesting way. The whole multi-model you know uh, aspect of LLMs make it even more interesting. So yeah,
Lovely,
that's the
lovely. It's going to be interesting times for SEOs out there. I think so. Everyone will have to step up and adapt for sure if they want to stay relevant. Okay, moving forward to the next question. So, working in SEO, we have seen both traditional SEO audits, and now we have vector-based analysis. So, what's broken or probably incomplete in the way most SEOs understand relevance today?
Yeah, so I'll attack the first part of the question first. What's broken in the traditional SEO audit? I think was is your first part of your question. And so I don't think the entire audit. Now, again, when we say SEO audit, it might mean different thing to different people. Some might just pull up a report from a SEMrush or an Ahrefs and say, "Hey, I've done this audit. Like, let's go fix this." Where there are other people who are actually going to put in a lot of effort and kind of really understand who the buyer is, who the persona is, who your competitors are, what your industry is, how are your customers finding you, what and so on and so forth, and then actually optimize towards that. And that I think is a much better approach than your traditional checklist level SEO to say I have a H1 tag missing here, I have three to H2 tags here, this so and so forth. Uh, and Aleda puts out great content in terms of prioritizing based on effort and impact. So definitely check that out. What I think is broken with the checklist SEO is our understanding of what issues matter. Our understanding, the checklist SEO, our understanding has been there is this crawler goes out there, looks at the title tag, the description tag, the heading tags, the content, make sure that the keyword is there in the content, and then there are images that also have your keywords in alt tag, and you have internal links and external links, and external links have exact match anchor text and so on and so forth. And that's all you need to do. Used to be true for a really long time, no longer the case
Mm,
because our the beasts that we are working with, the algorithms, the LLMs, way more sophisticated than that. They understand meaning, and so your exact match anchor text is not more important than the sentence from which that link is coming from, because now there is coherence. People, these bots, these LLMs, they understand the meaning of the sentence from where you extract this link. They understand the meaning of the paragraph. They understand the meaning of the whole document. So that contextual relevancy plays a much bigger role now versus it ever has been, right? Uh, and then there are other things that are, I don't want to get too technical with that, but and so that's like the fundamental shift is happening in terms of how engines and LLM bots work. And because of that, the things that we were going after up until now also have to evolve. And so that is kind of the summary of what's changing from your checklist SEO culture to this relevance engineering SEO culture. It's our understanding of how these things work. How is our content being interpreted? How is the website being interpreted? Just because you say you're a CRM software does not mean that you are being interpreted as a CRM software. When you actually do vector embeddings and you kind of look at the centroid, you understand, well, I've been looked as some sort of other software because of this other content that some random marketer I had in the past had created, thinking it was the best thing to do because he wanted to create a glossary, what have you, right? So it's the fundamental understanding of this has to change. Once that changes, then we start asking the right questions to say, hey, how do they understand meaning? How do they do chunking? What does chunking mean? What does passage indexing mean? Why do I have to go from optimizing a keyword for a page to optimizing a keyword for a certain paragraph. Like that shift
Hmm.
will get you asking the right questions, look in the right places for answers, and then ultimately get you in front of your audience.
Lovely. Um, I have a question for you. So chunk retrieval and passage optimization, all of that. So the new era of SEO, which is relevance engineering, from semantic SEO concepts and all of that. How far do you think are we from being commercialized or commoditized by popular SEO tools? Like, do you see that we'll have those features 6 months down the line, a year down the line? Like, what is the timeline that you look? Because all the SEOs out there probably can't understand all of this, and they are waiting for these tools to launch some of the fundamental. Yeah,
Yeah,
what do you
great.
think?
I think the tools, because they want to continue to if it's a public company, they want to continue to deliver high returns for their shareholders, and if there's private companies also, every company wants to grow, right? So the tools, if they have to stay relevant. They also have to evolve, and you are seeing that Ahrefs has already launched Brand Radar, which is their way of tracking mentions in these generative answers. SEMrush has launched their own things, and then there are gazillion other tools that are all sorts of launching all sorts of different things that they can today. I am a big fan of Screaming Frog, and I'm really excited for the update that they've launched, where they've kind of now given us the ability to do vector embeddings within Screaming Frog and do semantic similarity and all that good stuff. Even if tools give that away, I mean, I'm trying to understand what can they give away. Let's say the tool really starts. So there are some tools like WordLift, as an example, now have commoditized sort of creating vector graphs or knowledge graphs for
Hmm.
your own brands. So using your own GSC data, first party data, you create your own knowledge graph, and GSC data has pages linked to each queries. And so now you know for what queries, what are the scores, and for what pages, what are the scores, and are they similar? Yeah, all sorts of things. So I think the tools are going to eventually evolve. I don't think tools are quite there yet. And I saw Mike was talking about this. He's been loud about this for the past couple of years. Actually, I heard him, and SEO IRL said the same thing. SEO Tech SEO Raleigh said the same thing. SEO Week said the same thing. And so, if he can say the same thing at three different places, in two different countries, and I'm sure he's been 20 other places in that time as well, and the tool's still not kind of picking that up, meaning it's not that the tools don't know what's broken. It's like the engineering resourcing required to put together that kind of reporting is not as easy as pulling in clickstream data and kind of showing you keyword research. The whole game is shifting, right? And so yeah, I think now, every tool is also going to take a different approach. I think, like you look at AirOps and what they're doing, give you a blank canvas. You do you, right? You do decide your workflow. So we are not going to hold you accountable to say this is the only way to do keyword research, however way, shape, or form you prefer, or Gumloop, or Make, or N10, right? So there are other tools as well outside of SEO that can now be
Yeah,
leveraged for SEO, right? So even at a certain point, if it becomes commoditized, the one thing that I think most people miss out on is your content is no longer being used as your content anymore. If you look at AI overviews and you look at AI mode, Google's LLM, which is a modified version of Gemini, it's actually generating content because it's a generative LLM model, right? And so it's using your content and generating its own content.
hmm.
So start thinking about that and you understand, okay, what does that mean for my content? Well, and now you're starting to ask the right question. So I think even if it is commoditized, I don't see a place where you will end up in the same position, because here is here is what makes all the difference. It's the value, the trust that the brand in itself has created. So even like let's say pre AEO world, if you were ranking number 8, but you were a HubSpot and someone was searching for a CRM, versus a brand that started 2 years ago doesn't even have as much reputation as HubSpot has had. Who's likely to get that click? Eventually, that's what engines think is more relevant, is people who are driving the engagement. And so in the AEO world, the example, the analogy is, well, once people know the brands that offer the type of service that they're looking for, who are they going to choose? That's going to be the next search or the next click. That's again
Hmm.
sending the same engagement signals and making them more and more relevant, right? So end of the day, it's more than just all of this. All of this is getting your ducks in the row, fundamentals right. But end of the day, it's who you are as a brand. What is the product or services that you're offering? How amazing is that? That are the brands that are going to continue to win. I know there are tons of marketers that talk about marketing can't fix a broken product, right? And so that continues to remain true and will actually be amplified, because the whole research process is shrinking, right? When you fire a query in AI mode, it is firing 64 queries in the backend that a typical user would have fired. Hypothetical example, not
Yeah.
always 64,
Yeah.
but multiple queries, right? And so, what would have taken you 30 minutes to research and come to a conclusion of to say, hey, these are the three products, brands I want to look at, that job is done. You are no longer doing that. You have AI agents that take care of that. And the research data is going to be available to you based on what matters the most to you. Imagine it's a very different world, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I guess we'll see. No one has answers to everything, but yeah, my hypothesis is not a whole lot changes. You still have to build amazing products, have amazing customer service, so on and so forth, and then do all of this. That will help you gain the kind of traction you want.
I think so. There are a lot of wisdom for the brands out there on how to approach things, and there are new age startup founders who are just freaking because SEO is changing, and they need to understand the fundamentals don't change,
Yeah.
and they need to sympathize with SEOs because there's been a lot of things going on, and SEOs are trying hard. I'll not say, but it's going to take time until the dust settles and everyone adapts and shifts to the new era.
Yep, absolutely. If the big boys at the table like Sundar and Sam do not have all the answers of what 2 years from now looks like, how can you expect SEOs to have those answers, right?
Oh, that's perfect analogy. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay, so moving forward, I now we will get into the main conversation that we wanted to have, and I'm super excited that you already briefed me about it. So, but I'm curious, like you ran an experiment and brought this concept to life, and you wanted to show a demo. So before we jump into the demo, like, can you tell us what made you do that experiment and what were you hoping to uncover?
Yeah, great question. So I think what makes SEOs and people who have been in the industry long enough can probably relate to this more than people who have come in and left, is the curiosity element, right? The curiosity itch you want to scratch, and you want to understand what's under the hood. No one really knows, but we are all trying to understand. Well, we know some of it through all these lawsuits and trials and whatnot, and so we want to test that. My hypothesis of SEO has always been: do not trust anything that you don't test, and trust your tests and results more than the most popular theories out there. And so I've always been a big fan of experimentation, SEO experimentation as a culture. While I was at FreshBooks, now I'm here at Newfold, and I make sure that the teams that I'm working on understand that it's not about, hey, because someone said so, let's do this. It's more about like, hey, does that work for us? Let's test it. If yes, let's scale it. If no, let's learn, do more experiments. And so experimentation has always been the way I learn things and I confidently present ideas. And so this coming off of hearing Mike talk about this all this while, And then Screaming Frog launching this update made it easier to do the experiment. I have not done this. I have tried doing this on many different tools, try building my own tools. And what I'm talking about is trying to create vector embeddings at scale for the entire website, for all the pages, so on and so forth. And because of, for whatever reasons, I wasn't able to do it at scale so far in a way that was useful for the companies I work with, right? And so this just created the perfect playground to do it, because hey, Screaming Frog is always been people's favorite. It's my favorite, and it's just so super simple. Everything's integrated through an API. Is that simple as running a PageSpeed Insights API inside of Screaming Frog. You just connect the API and boom, see the magic happen.
Wow. Awesome. I think so. Let's bring this to life. And you have got the Screaming Frog data, vector embeddings, cosine similarity reports, and much more. So let's see, and let's kind of show it to our community what relevance looks like engineered. Uh, let's get into that. We are almost halfway through it. Thanks for sticking around. And here is a gold mine. And yeah, over to you, Krinal.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anyone has questions, feel free to send them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. I may not have answers to all your questions, but I guarantee to answer them, if not now, after the session when I know the answers as comments as well. So, all right, with that, so first, some context. The website I'm about to present, more so the data that I'm about to present, is for the company I work for called Bluehost. So we are a web hosting provider that primarily provides hosting in the WordPress space. And besides Bluehost, we have other brands under our kitty. Some of the community here might be more familiar with Yoast. Then there is Yit, and so we have some of the world's best WordPress plugins, alongside all sorts of hosting products, right from shared all the way to cloud. And so, because of so why I'm giving you this everyone this context is understand you understand the value of what you're doing if you know the full history of what you're working with. The history about Bluehost went through several mergers and acquisitions, and what typically happens through these mergers and acquisitions is there is a change of strategy and so on and so forth. And so in SEO terms, what that happens is there might be pages that have been left around from legacy sites and so on and so forth. And also because we talk about a hosting company in general, one that has millions of users, uh, there are many other chances that they might create all these pages that might not uh, you know might not be necessary to have in Google, and just creates more index plot and so on and so forth. And so we are on this process of going through a content pruning exercise. uh, and I get to work with some really smart SEOs on my team, and so they have a very thorough process of the whole content pruning and creating our own proprietary content health score, and considering everything from traffic to impressions to revenue to conversions to, and kind of creating one aggregate score to say which content should stay, which should leave based on business priorities, so on and so forth. So that was all going fine. Somewhere I had a feeling we are still might be missing out a few things, and so I wanted to take and add a layer, introduce more sophistication to the process called vector embeddings. Right. So when we are looking at just APIs that are available to us, like can we also look at content that might be hurting ourselves just because it means the same thing? We might be optimizing for different keywords. And so in the classical SEO world, you would not worry about this. Even if you look at search similarity, so on and so forth, you would not worry about this. But now we are not just optimizing for search, we're also optimizing for LLMs. So if you're confusing LLMs, I guess that's a problem worth revisiting. And so that's the context. What I did then was kind of embedded OpenAI's. They have a library. I'm missing the name now, but a library for doing vector embeddings, clustering essentially. And so you connect the API, you run a crawl on Screaming Frog, and it will automatically pull vector embeddings, which is nothing but a mathematical representation, a number between 0 to 1, uh, on for the page. And so each page is given a score, and then based on where these vectors are on a vector graph, they calculate cosine similarity. Cosine similarity is not new, like it has been used in maths and stats for many, many decades. But really what it is, it's kind of showing you how, in SEO terms, it's kind of showing you how similar a content might be perceived right now for the user. And there are other business reasons, even if the content is perceived similar, you might want to have that content, and that's totally fine. This is you just trying to understand what is being perceived as similar, not from lexical terms, because that's what we've been wired to do. When we say similar, you're like, okay, how do I get to a beach? Three ways to get to a beach. That sounds similar, but that's lexical thinking. Semantic thinking is very different, and that's where you need vector embeddings, because you can't reason through that in your own brain, because we've not been wired to think that way from classical keyword research world, right? And so at least I am not, I don't speak for the community.
Yeah, I can
So
relate to it. Yeah.
yeah, so all right, with that, let me present, share my screen. Hopefully this works. uh, Actually, first I thought it may be easier. It might be good for people to see where they can find this information. So if they wanted to do this for themselves, Screaming Frog kind of posted this update on their website when they launched version 22.0, which kind of provides step-by-step guidance on what this new offering is with screenshots. And again, when it comes to Screaming Frog, so it's the best technical documentation that I've seen out there. And so you can trust that even if you hand it to a no-wise beginner, they'll be able to work their way in at least implementing these steps. They are so methodical in their documentation, which I absolutely love. And so all the way at the top, you have semantic similarity analysis, a report that you can create. But in order to create the report, you need to do all of these configurations, which are mentioned here in the steps. So you connect whatever API you want to connect, OpenAI, Gemini, Olamar, Anthropic. You put in your API key, you configure a prompt. If you haven't studied prompt engineering or don't have the time to do that, they have a library of prompts. So you can just select embedding prompt, extract semantic embeddings, and it'll kind of do the job for now. Uh, there are other configurations here as well as to what reports do you want to generate once you kind of done that. So there is semantic similarity, there is low relevance, and then you can select the threshold of what does similarity mean to you, because for every brand it might be different. So I would just say try different scores here, zero point 0.9, zero point 0.8, zero point 0.7, and then see how different your results are. Same thing with low, like how low relevance, what low relevance means for you might be different than what it means for someone else. And so again, try different scores, see the results. Then there is a similar, semantically similar pages report, which will, once you do the crawl analysis, it will kind of pop up and it kind of looks like this. This is the one that I'm about to show. And then on the other side, there is low relevance report. Now, what low relevance report really means is this content. So because Screaming Frog is doing this for the entire site, like every page on the site, it also has a site level topical authority, sort of trying to understand what is the topic that this site is, the closest to. So now, if there are any content pieces, pages that are the furthest away from that topic in terms of semantic similarity, that will come up as low relevance. And it's really
Hmm.
not that easy. It might sound easy, but it's not really that easy to do this in your head, even if you know your content inside and out. Because I've been here for almost 6-7 months now, and I thought I knew all the content that we have, and I do, but that is not how this works. So do this and see for yourself. There is this really cool visualization. I know we love visualization, so this is again looking at the same thing from a visualization lens to see how the clusters, the dots in the same colors are the cluster. We're looking at a vector graph now. These are based on semantic similarity. They will be near or far. There are the ones that are near mean. These pages are similar in terms of what they mean. Their wordings might be different, but in terms of what they mean, they are similar, and so they are closer. And the dots that you see the furthest away, that is the least relevant, and somewhere in the middle is where your centroid is, because the distance is
Hmm.
calculated from the center. It's like radius measurement from
I think
center.
so. This visual is a 10,000 feet view picture, so it
Correct.
helps to understand. And then again, yeah,
Correct. uh, and then there are all these other visualizations, but I'll stop sharing and I'll jump into. By the way, if anyone wants to kind of jump right away, there is also this detailed documentation on how you select an API provider, how do you add embeddings from the prompt library, how do you connect the API. Like I said, Screaming Frog is the best when it comes to documentations, makes it super simple. So I would encourage people to try it, even if you don't have open APIs AI. You can use Llama, which is open source, or so on and so forth. All right. So with that, uh, let me jump back to. Do you have any questions so far, Parth?
no,
Good.
I think so.
Yeah.
We're good, and we are just excited to look at the report and practically understand it.
Yeah. Love it. All right. So hopefully this works. Are you able to see my screen?
Mm, yeah, it's loading. Yeah, it's visible.
All right. So, like I said, I ran a crawl of the website bluehost.com, embedded, configured the OpenAPI, OpenAI's embedding, semantic embeddings. And so here you can see the semantic similarity score. Uh, you know what's fun? Since this is on Screaming Frog, you can actually do this for your competitors. So not just for your own site, you can do this for any site. Uh, uh,
That's helpful. That's how SEOs love to reverse engineer what competitors are doing.
Yes, we've always been doing that, but now you can
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
from the semantic lens to say, hey, I've done all the reasoning of why my competitor is outranking me. Can I look at one more layer? That's how I think about this. Right? This is, if you're just getting started, this is just an additional layer to look at. At least it'd be easier to get started that way. I think we have a question. Do we want to take that up?
Sure. We have a question from Malarbai, and his question is: how difficult would it be for a novice to understand and do these experiments?
Uh, Great. Very very popular question, and I've been trying to convince the SEOs on my team to do this, and based on the experience of working with SEOs, and these are really smart people who have been around for many many years. uh, the doing part is not that difficult. The acknowledgement part, that your strategies are now no longer as effective as they used to be, I think that is more difficult. So it's more of a mental bias versus technical or feasible limitation. Uh, once you acknowledge, and I've been on that side of the fence for a really long time, where I said, yeah, like, and I saw Mike present this at SEO and I told him, I said, this is great, but like, all of this for what? Because he went so nerdy and so geeky and all this. I'm like, what are you going to gain after doing all of this, technical hubris? But it took me a while to realize the value and the potential. So I'd say it's not so much difficult to understand, because now there is tons of content. You go to YouTube and just search for these things. You even have Chat GPT. I use Chat GPT to even learn concepts, right? And so, or any other LLM, your favorite LLM. So it's I wouldn't say it's super easy, but given that there is some level of effort, I think it can be made easier. The understanding part. Now, doing Screaming Frog, super simple. One click of a button, done for you. Doing before Screaming Frog was out, or any other tools were kind of offering this right outside the box, not that easy. And that's why very few people were doing this, because you had to build your own toolkit and whatnot. Now it's becoming easier. I think more and more tools will start to catch up and make it easier for people to not just do it at the paid level, also do it at the passage level. Because once you do it
Yeah,
at the paid level, you can also do it at the passage level. I hope that answers Mahar's question.
sure. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. And I think so. 3 years ago, or probably 4 years ago, Keyword Insights came up with search intent classification, and then SEMrush came up, Ahrefs came up, and it was like everyone had their own theory. There was a little difference in how they were using their algorithms, but all in all, everyone integrated into it. So cool. We have one more question. Do we want to pick it up or
Yeah,
continue?
let's do it.
Yeah. So, there's a question from Deepak. Is there any difference in the semantic analysis report between premium and free version of the OpenAI API?
Great question. So the scores will differ depending on what model you're using. I think is the bigger question he's trying to ask is yes, the scores will differ depending on what model you're using. The premium version, I I don't think it's the premium version. It's like, do you have the API credits to run this kind of crawl? It's a yes or no question. So if the free version does not have access to the API, then you'll have to use. But you can just Google different APIs that are available out there for you across these LLMs to use this. There are many other open source ones as well. I'm sure DeepSeek probably already has one on their R1 and so on and so forth. So it is not about free or premium. It's whether or not you have access to a model that can do these mathematical calculation at an API level. Because you can also do this. By the way, I've seen people trying to do this from a prompt level. So you can send a page to in your prompt a URL to any of your LLM, say, can you calculate vector embeddings for this? I don't know how accurate that is. So give it a try, see what comes out of it. I prefer doing the API route as much as I can, and so that's what I prefer. But yeah, so yeah, to directly answer your question, the difference is not between free and premium. It's like, do you have access to any API that supports this?
Hmm. Lovely. Thanks for answering that. Yeah, we have a couple of folks who are watching us live and dropping comments. Ator from Delhi, Anirudh from Mumbai,
Right.
Deepak, and a couple of other folks as well.
Thank you.
I have a question. So, for example, if you connected the API, we got the result with cosine similarity scores and all of that. Now, if we export that report and if we put
Yeah.
it into any AI LLM like OpenAI or Claude,
Yeah.
and then if we are planning content
Yeah.
for next couple of months, so can we chat with this data and get cosine similarity scores for the new content that we are planning to publish? Can we do or play around with that? Because the logic that Screaming Frog had would
Yeah.
be different. Yeah, so I'm just curious, like how to go about it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Like, ease of access will always make it easier for everyone to kind of do, because this is the output you're expecting. You don't care about how you get to it, and the easier it is. I understand there is more accessibility, and it's just easier to work with. Claude has a MCP that you can connect with several APIs, and so let's say you set up the whole thing in Screaming Frog on a cloud and get the API to do this, and then just work connect that with Claude's MCP. You can pretty much do this within your Claude interface. If so, that's like, can I use the interface or no question. If the question is, can I use the interface for Claude or ChatGPT to then do future embeddings? You can do that even today before even running this analysis. I just don't know how accurate that is going to be.
Hmm.
So my preference is, if you're doing this in one place, stick to that place for consistency's sake, right? And so and you can literally, you can set up a Python script on your own environment and kind of do this, set up an API, or you can do a Google Colab notebook and do this. There are many ways of doing this. I just find this is the easiest way for me to do it, within Screaming Frog, and so that's why I do this. But that is not the only way to do it, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much for answering that. We have 10 minutes before we wrap this up. So if you have any questions, please shoot it right away. And in the meantime, we will move forward with the following questions. Um, okay. So considering the overall framework and process of this whole relevance engineering, um, so in terms of core relevant experiences, how do we build them across channels like YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn, to feed back into SEO outcomes? Because it's now multi-modal content across platforms.
Correct, correct. I think it starts by understanding what queries are being answered where, in what shape and form, and what problems are being solved using what type of content. So again, goes back to understanding your audience, and really trying to understand, like, let's say we take an example of home improvement as an industry, to say I want to fix something around the house, like a drywall patch that I want to put up, and so I'm searching for, like, hey, how do you patch a drywall? Would you prefer a text with, blog with all those screenshots of showing you step by step, or would you rather prefer a 20-year experienced driver installer showing you exactly how to do that in a video, right? And
Mm,
so understanding your audience and where they are watching this and how they want to get answers to that questions, in what way, shape, and form, will inform your strategy on what type of content to produce. I don't think this has changed. What has changed, though, is now, because of all these LLMs becoming more and more accessible. And I love the chat here, and what you are asking, because everyone's trying to do things with LLMs. You're trying to do everything with LLMs, right? And so I possibly, as a brand manager, can't comprehend how my users are going to be leveraging the content that I'm putting out there, right? And their habits may have already changed by the time my content becomes popular. So it is advisable for me to start thinking multimodal right from the get go. Instead of saying we need to put out X number of blogs, we now need to start talking. We need to answer these questions for our community, for our audience, in all of these different formats. That's how I would think about it. And that, can follow Ross Simmons from Foundation Inc. He does a really good content on content repurposing. Really, it's about content repurposing, right? You can repurpose your content. There are tools available out there. We can convert a blog to a video to a transcription, a transcription to a podcast. Like, use Notebook LM. Amazing experience, right? Like, learning experience. And so what there are people who just use Notebook LM to understand concepts. So if you have a video like this video right here, you can just put it into a Notebook LM, and instead of you and I having a conversation, two other people will be talking about what we talked about in this webinar. And some people like listening to that format. It works for them, great. And so as long as you are open to experimenting again, different formats of content, you will thrive in this model era.
awesome. I've seen that Deepak has a follow-up question. So based on his free and the other API, he's asking which model is better as per your experience.
Great question for someone who has only tried one model. Not the best question, but I can check what I'm using here. So there is a crawl config. Within that, we go to profiles, mode, access. There we go. Open API. Okay, it's selecting the best model from the models path. Okay, I can get back to Deepak on models, but I would say, instead
Sure.
of relying on one, the best part is to try at least two to three different models, because everyone has
Hmm.
their own way of doing things. And again, this is not scientific in a way that because it says it is semantically similar, you absolutely have to delete your content. This is you just trying to gain an additional layer of understanding of how your content is being perceived. What you make of it is still a business decision, is still a SEO decision, right? There are
Yeah.
reasons why you would want similar content to stay. There are reasons you think, well, I've also looked at the SERP and doesn't really look like we need these pages, so let's get rid of it, right? So that the decisions still are in your court. This is just giving you an additional layer of visibility into your own data.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, Moving forward, how realistic is it for teams to structure content around semantic triples that we discussed in the last session, subject, predicate, object, and what's the practical path to get started?
Great question. So the importance is because LLMs are not as sophisticated as search engine bots, and this is my hot take, not a industry popular term. I think they are lazier than the search engine bots, and so we have to make it simpler for them to understand our content. And so I use this example. If you are, let's say, an accounting software, and you say, instead of saying an accounting software with so and so feature, you say uh, a place that manages a place that, like, let's say you're brand focused, and you say a place that does the numbers, or a thing that runs the numbers, like some sort of a brand heavy slogan that the brand teams love, trying to kind of put on websites and stuff like that, might be great. But the LLMs don't understand. They want specificity. Tell me exactly what are you selling here. And so you take that context and apply that to content. Within each passage and within each sentence, there is a subject, object, predicate. It is very, very simple for a LLM to understand. A, who are you talking about, the subject? What is this talk in regards to the object, and how are they connected with the predicate, right? And so you make that understanding easier for the LLMs if you are doing this. I would say, instead of kind of revamping the whole strategy, start with small experiments. Pick content pieces that you think can improve on performance. Test small chunks. This is how what I'm asking my teams to do. Let's pick our top performing content. Let's try these small little things on existing content, and let's see the impact. You will find a sweet spot where the effort, the rewards outweigh the efforts, and so then you stop doing that. But there is definitely value in experimenting this. And I know, I think Steve from SEO Notebook also put out a GPT bot. So there you have a GPT bot ready for you to kind of implement this if you want to test this.
Oh, lovely. Thanks for sharing that. You can check out all the tools that we discuss. Don't miss out. Go out there and experiment with a bunch of custom GPTs and the Screaming Frog thing that we have shared with the new version. Now, I have a question. While we are discussing this, there's something that came up on my mind, and from an old school, comparing what we were doing 5 years ago, pre-COVID era. So there's this page rank algorithm, and if you're searching a query on a CRP, there were blue links, and any random page could show up on 6, 7, 8 position, whatever position. But now with this vector embeddings and cosine similarities, there are scores, and then the whole website, the whole brand has a score,
Yeah.
and it's considered that if you have that level of branding, then the whole website content will be considered, and a paragraph or a passage will be considered to show up on LLMs rather than looking at page wise. Do you think is that the change going on? Because earlier it was just ranking a page.
Hmm.
Now, whether the whole website has a very close similarity, and then
Hmm.
the whole website gets a high level score, whether it's
Hmm.
DA, DR, or whatever we call it, domain
Hmm.
score, or whatever we call it.
Hmm.
But is it something like that? Because now page level keyword optimization in URLs and all of that thing, is it going to be obsolete going forward?
I think great question, but I think we're also asking two different questions and trying to combine them when they may or may not make sense in the same context. But let me try to
Hmm.
first play this back so I understand what you're asking. What you're asking is, there is the whole concept of a brand, a website has a topical authority on a certain topic, which gives
Yeah.
you the topical score at the website level. In yesterday's world, that was DA, DR, what have you. In today's world, that, and tomorrow that might be something else. because you have certain topical authority in a certain topic, are you suggesting if there is a question from within that niche, that a passage from a page on your website might have a higher opportunity to rank or cited in LLM? Is that what the question is?
Yeah. So is it giving weightage to the page level or the whole website or domain
Ah,
level?
okay, okay. Great question. So I think both are true.
Mhm.
And I use this way of thinking a lot. Is end of the day, like search has always wanted 10 results to create a page, right? So how bad or those results are doesn't matter, as long as there are 10 results they'll put it. So if there are no better results, you might come up even if you're not relevant, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
In the LLM world, LLMs are lazy. And so if I ask questions about, hey, how much does Basecamp cost? Or what is better, Basecamp or Asana? It will not worry about crawling entire Basecamp and Asana's website and going through every single page and every single piece of content. It would rather look at a third party affiliate like a PC Mag or something that has done that comparison ready to go, pull that and do that, because they are also trying to optimize on
Yeah.
resources, because it's very, like, I think prompt on one of these LLMs is, I think, 10 or 20 times more expensive in terms of the compute and the energy that is required to create the answer, compared to a Google search query, right? And so they are also trying to optimize on resourcing. And the models are getting better, like ChatGPT dropped the price for O3 by, I think, 87%, so on and so forth. But still, it's way more expensive compared to a typical search. And so one is just understanding how, they are lazy, they'll go find content from the easiest place accessible to them, and where it is easier for them to make those decisions, understand. So that is that. The other layer is, to your point, because my website has a higher topical authority, do I have a higher chance? I would say yes. If the question is within that topic, you are considered an authority. It works in today's world as well. And you would see I've run lots of test experiments on prompts and so on, and I'm seeing that for sure. There is a certain website in a certain industry that, for whatever reason, has authority, or trusted brand in this LLM world, and they will pick up all stats and citations from that website. Like, they'll go crazy. The other part is page level authority still important? I think, because I don't think search is going to die completely. Like I said at the top, I don't think that's happening. I think we are just trying to connect, merge this two. And Google, I don't think, wanted to do this. They are being forced to do this. And so they're trying to merge the LLM and the search. And everyone's trying to wrap their head around what this really starts to look like. And I think we are watching it SERP. It doesn't always play out the way we want it to be. And so I think that is still important. Page level authority is still important. But what is becoming more important is that passage level. Can my passage stand on its own? Is it coherent enough? Is the meaning complete within the passage itself? And that is because it can be used even without the page, right? And so it can fly on its
Mm.
own, it has more legs, and so the value is more. It's not taking away the value from the page by any chance, because there are still going to be people who are reading pages. Just fewer and fewer of them is what I'm
Mm.
saying. There are going to be more agents reading pages and doing the analysis than there are humans. Like, if you look at your crawl log and you look at the bot crawl traffic, you will understand what I'm talking about. The whole agentic era that we are headed to, a lot of the website clicks that are coming from humans are more likely to come from agents. But agents are still doing this embedding at the page level, understand? So there is still value there.
Oh, lovely. This widens my horizon, and I can think of many other possibilities. Oh, fantastic. I think so. It's it's important for us to understand what weightage does the algorithm give back to the page level as well
Mm.
as the domain level topical authority, and probably strike the right balance, and eventually identify the exact engagement metrics as well, which LLMs are looking for. But yeah, this is very, very important. Thank you so much. And we have been uh, having this conversation for more than an hour now, and it's time to wrap. last minute or two. I don't think so. We have any questions right now, but yeah, if you have any questions while you are watching this on the replay mode, please feel free to drop a comment, and as soon as we will check it, we'll try to reply back. And this has been such a fantastic deep dive into relevance engineering with this part two, the second episode of this series. And I can't thank enough Krinal Bhai for joining in early in the morning. Uh, Thank you so much for your valuable insights and your time on this Friday morning. And we look forward to the third episode. We'll decide on that probably next week or next to next week based on your availability. But thank you so much
Of
for
course.
joining in.
Thank you for setting this up. Thank you for being an amazing host. Thank you for all those great questions, and thank you for having me. Happy to continue to give back, and I actually learn when I share more. Always been trying to teach, because teaching is where you learn more than when you
Yeah,
learn. So I love this as well. Is all I'm saying. So let's keep this rolling. Appreciate it. And thank you to everyone watching, either live or if you're watching a replay. Thank you so much. Do keep sending your questions, because that helps us decide the topic of the next session, and also if there are additional formats that you prefer this content in.
perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining in, everyone who has joined today. And look forward to the next session. And see you on Monday with our SEO Talk Spaces.
Love it. Thank you
Thank you,
for
Krinal Bhai.
thank you everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend.